Hi, thank you for joining us for this episode of Springdale Today. I'm your host, Mary Jordan. Responsibly managing technology is one of the biggest challenges facing youth today. Our guest today is Ian McReady, a leading voice who's helping schools, parents, and students navigate what can be overwhelming. Ian is the founder of the digital habit company Selfctrl, and his work guides people to reclaim their time and use technology with intention. Thanks for being here with us today, Ian.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really grateful for this topic because I think it's one that a lot of families are struggling with, students are struggling with. Sometimes they don't even realize it. And having this conversation, I think, will help people really take a step back and consider what might be a little bit healthier use of technology. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to share today.
Oh, thank you, Mary. I'm looking forward to being here. And yes, it is, I think, the topic, or at least one of the number ones in terms of people and families that I engage with.
Well, I had an opportunity to see you speak at one of our schools last school year, and you talked about a rather life-changing event that happened to you in 2017 that kind of that made you make the choice to kind of relook at your reality a little bit and make some hard changes in your life. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Before 2017, I think just a little bit of context is helpful. If you would have looked at me in middle school and high school, I was playing games, but I don't think, and nobody in my life would have told you they were a problem. But when I went off into college, I essentially started playing a video game called World of Warcraft, and I got what I would call, and I think other people would call, addicted. I was playing 12 to 14 hours a day, and the markers in middle school and high school, I got good grades, I didn't get in trouble, so people weren't saying, well, video games are a problem. But they did become a problem for me. And I'm so glad that I quit World of Warcraft, but going throughout the rest of my adult life, getting married, getting a full-time job, and then having my daughter in 2017, that really made me take a deeper look at what was I thinking I was getting out of video games, but what were they also costing me? And that kept weighing on me as I would stay up too late trying to de-stress from a busy life with not a lot of sleep with a young kid at home. And I'm then choosing to take some more of my time away from sleep and play games so that I can de-stress. But it was really just compounding the stress. And I went to a retreat and the speaker was talking about priorities. And I would never say that video games were my priority, but I was craving them. I was like seeking them out to try to feel good. And I recognized that my priorities were out of whack. And I wanted to put my family first, like I think everybody says they want to. But I found myself just wishing I could have more time to myself to just play games. And not that we can't have hobbies, not that we can't enjoy things, but I recognized that they were something that I was not using with self-control. And so every time I would go to them, I would just want more, and it ended up being a net negative in many ways. And so I decided to take a complete break from video games for about 6 months. But that 6 months kind of turned into more and more as people started coming to me and saying, hey, I heard you quit video games. Could you talk to my son? Could you talk to my nephew? Hey, what do you think we should do with our kids on YouTube or Instagram? Hey, can you help me actually? So that's how Selfctrl was born off of that event in 2017. It was essentially me taking a break from something that I did love, I enjoyed, or something that was almost kind of a part of my identity ever since growing up. But I had recognized they had gotten to a point where as much as they gave me good things and I enjoyed things about them, they also came with a cost.
So is that what you found you were losing then, time, or was it something a little bit more than that?
So it was more than that, Mary. And what I found as I looked back at my 20s, I recognized that the main thing I gave away to video games, and this is what I see over and over again with people when it comes to screens in general, we give two areas away. We still get our jobs done. We still take care of business, especially for those of us with families and jobs, and like we're not letting it train wreck or derail our lives. But what we're giving up are the things that are hard to quantify and take a lot of our time. And those two things are sleep and relationships. And so I was giving up essentially sleep mainly. I would play video games at the end of the day. I didn't have a ton of time. I wasn't playing 12 to 14 hours a day like I was in college, not even remotely. But I would steal a little bit of time, and it was always hard for me to put it down at the end of the day, at the end of the night. And any sleep expert would tell you that's exactly when you need to put down the screen. You actually need to put it down 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed, because the blue lights from your laptop screen or your phone screen will mess up your circadian rhythms, and it'll, even if you actually are getting sleep, you will feel less rested. And so that is where I was giving up time. And we all know that sleep affects pretty much every area of life. But the other area was relationships, and that's where I see it happening more and more. Is we're open to giving a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, some of our extra free and flexible time to our devices, because there's so much on there to keep our attention. And what it turns out is our quality of our relationships just kind of slowly trends down. And I think that's what's led to effectively what the National Surgeon General called an epidemic of loneliness among parents in our generation. He released a paper a few years ago talking about this, and I see it. I see it with people. We're more connected than ever, but it's not working. And I think for me, that's what I recognize. I was going to video games, and it gave me some benefits, but it came with costs. And the costs were sleep, and the costs were intentionally seeking out and creating relationships with other people. My peers, friends, my spouse, my kids. It affected me in those two areas the most.
And your organization is called Selfctrl. How do you define self-control when media technology is woven in virtually every aspect of our lives today?
Yeah, this is a great example, because a lot of things, especially as we teach our adolescents, our families, how do you have self-control around certain things? Well, with a lot of topics, it's you don't touch it at all, right? Or you don't touch it until you're 21, or you don't touch it until you can make those decisions as an adult. And so we have certain things and a lot of topics that are just, that's dangerous, don't do it, right? But I think the best analogy is just a simple one that all of us can understand around food, right? We have to teach our families and our kids how to have self-control around food. And if you just eat whatever you want, and you just have candy and junk food, you, as a kid, you just don't get it, right? You're like, I will have energy forever. And then as an adult, you're like, I feel like junk, like when I eat junk food. They call it that for a reason. And there are many aspects where a lot of the things that we consume and what our children consume are the equivalent of digital junk food. And so there are so many ways in which technology is incredibly effective, incredibly helpful to our lives in whatever our mission or calling or like our jobs, positively impacting the people and the communities around us. 100% we can use technology to do that, and I think we should. But we have to be honest with ourselves when we're like, well, we've also been, and no offense, and I'm sorry if you eat at McDonald's and love it. I eat at McDonald's occasionally, but right, you can't, I think most of us know, you can't eat McDonald's every single day for 3 meals, right? It's going to cause you health problems. Well, there are certain things we're doing on our devices, and if we can't teach our kids, well, you can't do that every day. You're not going to achieve the goals of where you want to go if you just spend so much time doing this. That, I think, is the approach. We don't teach kind of to be digital Luddites, or where we're totally removed and we're like, you know what, we should just all go to dumb phones and we should just teach our kids, get off it all. It's difficult, right? I think the most common question I get from parents is, well, if my child is not on social media, or my child does not have a smartphone when every other kid in their class does, isn't that going to cause more damage? And my answer to that question has evolved over the years, because it's a very difficult question. But I've talked to the kids that were made to be put in that position to wait. And I have not heard from one of them yet as they've grown into adults. I haven't talked to them when they're 17 and in the middle of it, but I've talked to, because I have talked to those kids and they're like, I'm so mad at my parents, but I get why they're doing it, and they roll their eyes. But I've talked to them when they're 20, when they're 21, when they're 24. We're actually getting the data back where people have lived long enough and they've lived through essentially our kind of modern smartphone era. And they say, I'm so glad my parents did it. Every single one of them. I'm so glad my parents did it. And so to that, I say, you have the known entity of a smartphone and social media where the U.S. government is even saying it's not healthy. And you have books like The Anxious Generation with Jonathan Haidt that did an amazing, incredible job. And I recommend that book to any parent. It's big, but you can skim through it. You can jump around to the sections. There's sections on, advice for government leaders. You can skip that section if you want. Go to the advice for parents. It's just one chapter, and you can read the different sections in there. But we have gotten the data back that social media does, if you use it for over 3.5 hours a day, double a teenager's chance of depression and anxiety. So if you're not at least considering, I need to at least limit this. If I'm going to give access to it, I need to give the controls and the help to limit it, because it is proven to be a dangerous device or a dangerous piece of technology that's out there. And we can argue, well, social media or the devices that we use, yes, they can be good. They can connect us to people. Well, they can make sure my child doesn't feel socially ostracized and not part of their group. Yes. But it has been proven at this point that if it goes unmonitored, unfettered, and even if it does get monitored and it does get controlled, and parents will tell you, I tried to put controls, it's not working. Because it's been proven to be addictive. There's a dopamine loop in a child's brain like any habit ever. Let's go back to the food analogy. Ice cream tastes good. When we think about eating food and we think about, hey, maybe, and then dopamine will release in our brain and it will say, go get the ice cream. It's the same mechanism is happening. That's the same thing that happens with hard drugs, Mary. Like people who are addicted to hard drugs and substances, dopamine will release in their brain and will say, despite all reason and logic, I want that dopamine high again. Go give it to me. So the same thing is happening that is driving our kids to social media. It's driving them to play video games in excess. It's driving them to that. And the designers of this technology have recognized that, and they have harnessed it to an incredible rate of success. And at this point, I don't believe any caring parent can just give over a smartphone or internet-enabled device to their child and give them access to social media without helping them use it safely. It is the data is too strong that it has such a pull and such a power to negatively affect children's mental health. So there's no silver bullet. It's not easy. I want to just affirm any parents who are saying, you know what, this is crazy. I'm going to wait, because I've talked to a lot of them. And again, I haven't come across the case where the child, once they've reached adulthood, doesn't say thank you like they would for, thank you for forcing me to do piano. Thank you for forcing me to take sports seriously, or whatever these things that we know can be lifelong benefits. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. But I want to just affirm that is a viable choice. And I think some people don't think it's viable. They think, I have to. My kid is going to hate me, and I'm actually going to cause them harm by not giving them the device. I don't think that's true. And I think we need to remove that stigma and give permission. And I hope that we'll get to a point as a society where we'll hit a tipping point where we say, actually, no, half and half maybe. Half the kids have devices, half of the kids don't, because we've recognized that it's not healthy. And so, but I do think if you have chosen to give your child a device, that's okay too. You got to be engaged though. You got to look at the data and say, this is not safe for them if I don't help them understand how to use it with self-control.
It sounds like then that there's a real balance that has to happen. How do you keep that balance with intentional use versus complete elimination and helping kids function?
So I talk to a lot of parents, and one of the most common things I hear, especially in the younger ages, but even into middle school, is my child is sneaking in the middle of the night, watching YouTube. And I just want to take us all back, parents. Like, as a kid, I did that a couple times, right? Like, especially when my friends were sleeping over, like, let's sneak down to the family room and play on our PlayStation 1. And, like, this is the coolest thing ever. But the PlayStation 1 games weren't so good that I'm like, I'm going to do this tomorrow when my friend leaves, right? I never did that. It didn't have that type of draw. It didn't have some sort of mechanism saying, if you log on again before your parents wake up, you'll get an extra bonus, right? Because you have daily login rewards, or you have this extra mission that can earn you extra points. Like, none of that was in place. Or just the addictive loop that YouTube provides. And it provides ever increasing, even on YouTube Kids, parents. This is when I hear this from parents. They say, if this was on YouTube Kids, my child was watching YouTube Kids, I thought I was giving them, like, it doesn't matter at this point. The algorithm is so powerful that if you could get completely tailored to you TV as a kid, Saturday morning cartoons plus, right? And introducing things to you that, like, you didn't really know were super exciting or fun for you to watch, but the internet, through billions of impressions, has figured out that this video, out of millions of others, just resonates with kids your age. And the algorithm has figured that out, and it shows it to you. And then it says, well, there's actually a very high chance after this video, if we show this video versus any other video that's out there, it will keep them on the platform, because that's what we've trained it to do. Like, people are like, hey, I'm scared for AI in the future. AI has been making decisions on what videos to show us on YouTube for quite some time. And it has gotten very good at it. And the thing that scares me about that is YouTube is not incentivized nor designed to take into account the mental health of our kids, their well-being, the fact that they have goals and they want to do well in school, they want to do well in life. It's just saying, how can I keep them on the platform? So that gets them up in the middle of the night. That gets them up and choosing to do things that are not in their best interest. And so the pull to that is so strong for kids that I encourage parents to say, when those things happen, not if, but when those things happen, that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity for the crucial conversation where you can help them see, do you see what it's doing to you? Do you see how this, and what I always try to encourage parents to do is get the child to verbalize themselves the consequences, the negative, like what this is going to mean for them. Because those are the scenarios where we have to have a serious conversation around, well, this is why we put limits in place. Because if we don't have these limits in place, this is what your brain is going to motivate you to do and push you to do. And if we don't stop this, you are going to only want more and more. And I've explained this to kids before. It's a harder concept to explain, and I don't always use the words that I'm about to use with parents, but there's something called the tolerance-based addiction cycle. And this is how really any addiction forms. When you do something that you enjoy or that you get dopamine from or want, your brain will enjoy it. But the next time you do it, not as much dopamine will release. And actually more dopamine will release to motivate you to just go do the activity again. Because the brain is saying, hey, we enjoy that. We got a lot of value out of it. And we're going to release dopamine so that we go do the thing again. And when you do it again, you still get a high hit of dopamine. But that's what keeps people seeking out hard drugs or alcohol. That's what keeps us seeking out. So when our child comes home from school, dopamine will release in their brain, and they're like, hey, I have some free time. What do I like to do? The brain will remember. It's very good. It's like a computer in many ways. And it will release dopamine and say, you like your screen. That's where we can get the highest hit of dopamine right now. And it will motivate them towards that. So to answer your question, I encourage parents to set limits, not so that our kids won't ever break them. Set limits and put rules in place so that you can parent them through that. And don't get discouraged when the kids break the rules or when they have a hard time handling it, because it is an incredibly difficult thing to handle. Most people are failing at it. Most adults are failing at handling it in a healthy way. And look for that opportunity to say, hey, this is why we're putting this rule in place. And I want you to be able to get to the point where you can do this for yourself. And that's a life skill I want every child in Springdale and across the world to learn. I want them to learn the life skill of recognizing when something is fun and enjoyable, but it's become unhealthy. And we have to do that as adults nonstop, all the time, with food, with exercise or lack of exercise, with how we use our screens, with how we're getting to sleep or not getting to sleep. And we're like, you know what? I enjoy scrolling at the end of the night, but this is not healthy for me. So what can I do to stop it? Well, I got to put it in the other room and charge it. I got to get help if I can't do it on my own. Like, these are the things where in so many other aspects of life, we're like, all right, I got to get in a group or community. I got to go join a gym. I got to join a group that's going to help me lose weight. I got to do these things because I know I can't do it on my own, and I've tried long enough. And that's how I want us to think about screens and teach our kids to think about screens. It is a life habit like anything else. And to build self-control around it, you need to recognize when it's becoming unhealthy and put things in place to get that habit back into a healthy zone. Because I was talking to an addiction expert about this, right? And a habit, like a bad habit left unchecked, is effectively what turns into an addiction, right? And an addiction, the definition is just something we do habitually to our extreme detriment, right? But, it's a bad habit to show up late for work. It's an addiction if whatever we showed up late for work and what caused us to show up late for work got us fired, right? That's that's a crude definition, but like that's what we don't call something an addiction. And I think most people aren't what we would call addicted because they need to be really wrecking their life. But I think most of us have a very bad habit around our phones, adults included. And we have to learn how to recognize when that's the case, adjust, and teach our kids to do the same. But it is so much easier to adjust in the bad habit phase than I've gotten so bad, I have made such bad decisions around my screen or video games or social media or whatever it is that I am willing to drop out of school. Like we have to try to help our kids while we're still in this gray area of bad habits and move that into good habits versus we're addicted. What are we going to do? We need counseling. We need intervention. We need help. That's, I think, the job of all of us as parents is trying to help our kids move bad habits into good ones and recognize when technology bad habits need to be adjusted and changed.
You work a lot with K through 12 schools, including some of ours. Mm-hmm. What are some of the top impacts you're seeing in schools for students' academic and social emotional health and development?
Impacts from the use of technology or
the
impacts?
Use of technology, overuse, being distracted by it, engagement with their peers, how it might be pulling them away from building healthy relationships beyond a screen?
Mm-hmm. So I'm so excited that at the state level and in many states, I think it's 37 states, have some sort of legislation limiting phone use within schools. I think that's the data, and what we've seen at this point is that, and if you talk to any teacher, right, like, yeah, half my class isn't engaged, right? And I either have to choose to be the teacher that says, put your device away, keep putting your device away. These are the consequences if you don't put your device away in my classroom, right? And what legislation and what that essentially did was it freed up the administration to say, it's not on us, we got to follow the rules from the state. And I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on that, whether it's good or bad, and even a lot of parents that maybe are listening to this are like, well, it's bad. I don't like that I can't get access to my student or whatever it is. You can still get access to your student. You just have to call the school, and they come to the office, and you connect with them that way. we reached a point where the mental health of the kids in our school was so bad that the government felt like they needed to intervene. And we have to recognize that as parents and say, wow, what happened here? And we got to look at the facts and the data. And the facts and the data show that kids, teenagers, on average, spending 7 to 8 hours a day, average. So you have a large percent of the population that is well over that. And you have a good percentage of students saying, like, reporting on surveys that they're online almost constantly. Like, that is basically how they exist. That's having a massive impact on social skills. That's having a massive impact on children's well-being. And the social skills, like, the downstream impact of that is just the rates of depression and anxiety of, unfortunately, preteen suicide, especially among girls, is skyrocketing, like 171% with preteen girls versus the 2010s to the 2000s, right? So that impact, we could argue, well, did it come from screens? Or, like, I don't think we can argue that it didn't come from screens or it didn't come from technology use at this point. So the impact that that's having to children is massive. And I think one of the most important aspects of parenting in today's modern age and for this next generation is going to be, how did you teach them how to use technology? I just think that is going to be, you're going to hear, and I already talked to kids, this is how my parents did it. This is how they modeled it for me. This is what my mom and dad's rules were. They had, I could never, my device always had to be checked in at the end of the night and plugged in their master bedroom. And I got to connect with this dad, and I was like, okay, I haven't heard that one before. Like, what happened there? It was in the closet of the master bedroom. He's like, we charged all the devices there. And I was like, what happened? He's like, well, in the kitchen, they sneak out in the middle of the night and they take it in the kitchen. I was like, okay. It's like, kid can't sneak through the like tight roping through, like, spy scene here. Get the phone out of the closet. It creaks, and that's not going to fly, right? And so just removing that, and the fact that parents are going to those lengths to keep kids away from these devices has to tell us something about how powerful they are. And it's true. Mary, I talked to a local university here. I spoke at John Brown University here in Northwest Arkansas. And I got to connect with the director of counseling services after. And what's your guess on what percentage of the student body they counsel every single year?
I'm going to guess it's actually relatively low in that a lot of people don't like to ask for help. So let's say 37.
Okay, 37. Thank you for saying that's relatively low. I think that's pretty high. It was 40%. So you're not far off. So 40% of the student body of adult university students is getting counseling through college. And she was like, this is the topic. This is like something phone-based, technology-based is the topic. Mental health and depression is technically the topic, right? But what we're talking with them about is, what do you do? What do you engage? How do you interact? And you're hearing stories of kids, 24-year-old guy, and I've been falling asleep to YouTube every night since I was 7. I can't stop. I can't fall asleep. I lay in bed and I lay there for 2 hours, and then I roll over, I grab my phone, I watch 15 minutes of YouTube, and I'm able to fall asleep. Like, that's the type of scenarios that we're going into. I talked to another guy, grown professional. He's in his 30s. He's got his own kids. And he's like, Ian, I watch 6 hours of YouTube every night. I was like, how do you even do that? He's like, I'm a wreck. And I've been doing it for years, and I don't know how to stop. I don't want to live like this anymore. Like, we can say all we want, like, yeah, our devices are addicting you to, like, it's a problem. Like, it is a massive problem. And I don't think we're treating it as a society like an addictive substance yet. I don't think, because of the fact that it's so useful. The device, what's so useful is one swipe, click, notification that comes down on the top of the screen, and then we click it, and then we've lost 45 minutes of our life, and then we go back to whatever we're doing, and we're like, I need to stop doing that. Like, it's all so combined and interpacked in there that if we don't go through the exercises to limit notifications, to set screen time limits, and then when those screen time limits don't work, we ask for friends, or we download software like a Freedom or some of these other softwares. You can like Google them, screen control or screen time help softwares that just force it. I use one myself because I found myself, I stopped playing video games and I scroll the news, and I can do that for forever because it's so accessible, it's so engaging, and I can use it to distract myself. And man, life is stressful. So I can distract myself and I feel good for a little bit. And that works for a little bit, but then I have to go back to that thing that was stressful. And then I just need another little break. Oh, well, I can get another little break. Even at the office, like sitting, no one's around. Like I can get a little, I work from home now, but I know other people do this all the time and they have a hard time. And what that does is similar to me with video games at the end of the night, saying, I just need a little bit of relief. So I'm going to stay up a little later. Doing that throughout the day, getting those distractions, doesn't relieve our stress. It delays our stress and compounds it for the future. And what that's doing is leading people into a place of anxiety, a place of falling behind, because we're giving so much of our time and letting our devices distract us so much. And we don't think it is because it's a little bit here and there, or it's just something at the end of the night after we figure everything else out. But we're doing it so much that we are inoculated to, or essentially we don't view it as a problem. And I was working with Dr. Imhoff here locally. He runs the Joshua Center here in our region. And I just connected with him through somebody else, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here, right? So like, I'm helping parents, I'm doing this, and I've done this with a few other professionals and addiction specialists. I'm like, what would you, like, how would you help somebody with this? And he said, well, it's interesting. The first step that I view as the thing I need to do with people, besides relationship building when you're talking with somebody from a therapy perspective, but he's like, the first step isn't denial, like it is if you go look at the 12 steps of AA or other things, where it's just like everyone knows you drinking all the time or using drugs is a problem. No, the first step with this is ambivalence. Ambivalence means I'm on the fence. It means my device is so useful, it's so good. Well, I got to keep it, and I don't like this or this or this, but I got to keep it. So my device isn't a problem. Like, we don't know what to do or how to limit it because we don't see a way out. And I see that as the same thing with the dilemma with, well, I can't not give my kids because the social, like, they'll have so many problems if I don't give it to them. I know it has problems. So we're ambivalent. We haven't decided as a society, this is dangerous, and we're still all figuring out and like floundering a little bit to say, like, what's the solution? And I wish I had a perfect solution for us. But I think as a society, the solution that I've found is you got to keep adjusting, learning, and saying what's working, what's not working. And I felt like a loser, kind of, that I couldn't get video games in check. And I remember some of my friends being like, my grown adult male friends saying, really, man? You can't just play a little less? Like, what's going on? But then I had some of my other friends who were gamers who would come up to me like, I got a problem too. Can you help me? And the video games we all grew up with weren't addictive. And so people in our generation and our current generation, I think we and hope we can shift the narrative to we're dealing with addictive apps, addictive, like the device itself is not addictive, but the design that it gives us and the apps that are on it and the things that can be brought to us 24 hours a day are. And they're proven to be at this point. And so we have to figure out how to continually adjust and be honest with ourselves. Is this worth what it's costing me?
How do we help parents realize that their children may be having a cost? How do we help them see what is healthy behavior versus when their student or child may be digressing into something that may be addiction and may be harming them in the long run?
That's a great question. I usually point out to parents what the actual signs of addiction are, right? So if your child is stealing to pay for video games or pay to get access to anything they're doing, if your child is just lying about it consistently, and that's a tough one because children oftentimes break the rules and don't tell mom and dad. But typically what like the actual definition for addiction would say they're doing it for at least 2 years and it's causing them major problems. And that's a tough one because a lot of kids will still get good grades. Like this won't become a problem then. And then for like me, they'll head off to college and it'll be all on them and they won't have mom and dad keeping them in the rails and they'll get themselves into trouble. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing with freshmen in college. They're having a rough transition. So I think parents, you're looking for those kind of extreme scenarios. So they're lying, they're stealing, they're telling you that they want to stop and they can't do it. That's probably one of the biggest ones where the child actually says, I want to stop. But those are more of the obvious ones where they're saying like, hey, I don't really want to hang out with my friends. I'd rather just stay at home. And you know what they want to do at home is just kind of scrolling beyond their device. That's like things that they would typically enjoy or do, they're saying no to. But I do think as a parent, you have to recognize and look for the steps ahead of that. And the steps ahead of that are they want to be on it more and more and more. I think is the most common one. And I will talk to parents. We'll have one child who has a problem, one child who doesn't. And I ask them like what the difference is. And they're like, well, they both started playing video games here. And this one just kept going and they want to do it all day, every day. This one plays it for 30 minutes and they're kind of like, all right, I'm bored. I go off and do something else. And that's the dichotomy. And you got to look for that. And same with social media. You'll see some kids get on there and YouTube's probably the toughest one because most people who watch it have a hard time turning it off or slowing it down. And so I think we do have to just look for they're doing it more and more, and they want to do it more and more and more. And that's when you need to start having a conversation with them and talking to them about it and saying, hey, like this is you're only going to want more of this. How can you start either obeying the limits that we put in place or come up with your own limits? And I will help you self-monitor. So those are some of the things I would recommend they look for.
And kids are savvy. They're really savvy, and technology is evolving all the time. So too are their skills then to interact with it. Are there any digital skills that you think youth are not learning today that would be valuable?
That's a good question. And yes, kids are savvy. And before I answer your question, I just want to encourage every parent out there. I don't think the goal is staying on top of every trend or getting it perfect. That shouldn't be our goal. Or let me reframe our view of what success looks like. Our view of what success looks like is helping children build for themselves the skill around using technology or a digital skill to self-regulate. And that is feels, and some parents are listening to this like, that is impossible. It's not going to happen. We have to try because I am working with the adults in their 20s and 30s who didn't learn how to do that. And as an adult, they're like, I got to figure this out. I'm like, yeah, here's the steps I took. Here's what I'm seeing other people be successful with. And they're like, okay, thank you. Like, I wish I'd started this. I wasted so much time in my 20s. So it feels impossible, but I feel like a teenager without problems feels impossible, right? So like, let's just understand that this is a problem facing them today. And if you don't help them learn that skill to self-regulate on how much time they're using and spending, recognize when something is unhealthy, and then what can I even do to stop it? And that's a whole nother topic. Like at a certain point, if we can't stop ourselves, which a lot of kids can't, a lot of adults can't, we have to take more extreme action. We have to say, you know what? The most common things that will help people in that are take a complete break from the app or the thing that is a problem and tell other people about it and help them keep you accountable. It sounds so rudimentary or elementary, but that is one of the most effective things. And when you talk about kids being savvy, they'll work around all of that to get a little bit more time with YouTube or whatever it is. And at that point, you as a parent have the opportunity to talk with them and say, like, do you see how much this is pulling you to it, that you're willing to go around all of this? Like, and I try to get the child at that point, because I've talked to those children, and I'm saying, what is it costing you? What are the negative effects that are coming with that? Well, I don't like that my parents are super angry about it. I'm like, you can do something about that. And I try to give them the encouragement of like, I want you to be able to play video games and use your phone in a healthy way. Like, that's the goal for when you're on your own in 18. And they're like, really? You know what I mean? Like, they're like, I thought mom and dad wanted you to talk to me because you're going to tell me, you're going to change my perspective, and like, I'm going to quit everything, right? But like, that's the goal. What I'm finding is a lot of high schoolers or even university students are like recognizing, I can't use it. I can't do it like I did with video. I've built addictive negative patterns around it. I need to quit social media entirely, or at least this app or whatever it is. So that's the end goal. I think like a lot of people lead themselves there, but I can't just force them there. Like people have to lead themselves. So self-regulation would be the digital skill I would recommend.
A lot of our youth have one-to-one technologies in schools, meaning every student has a laptop or perhaps a tablet they can use, and they're using them in the classroom.
Yes.
So self-regulation really becomes a conversation here too, because they don't have their phones, but they have a laptop in front of them with access to the internet or Kindle. And I remember when I was in school, you would put a book up underneath the book that I was actually supposed to have.
Yep.
Right? So how do we help teachers not be police officers and students self-regulate in class in such a way that they're not being distracted, that they're engaging with the classroom and their work as opposed to whatever might be pulling them away on their laptop or tablet?
That's a really good question. I don't think there's a easy solve. In fact, I just started talking with one of the doctors and professors at the University of Arkansas who's over their curriculum department, and I'm talking with her about partnering with us on creating a curriculum to help teachers in schools teach these skills of self-regulation and teach kids how to have self-control around technology, because I don't think it's not like something you can have in a 15-minute conversation with a kid and they're just going to get it. You're working usually in the case already years of ingrained behavior. So I think the actual practical solution here is going to look different in each classroom. But I think for teachers, it's let's get back to just what is the big idea that I'm trying to teach these kids, right? Like, what is my subject? What am I trying to teach them? How can I or how must I use technology to help them learn that? But where can I, throughout my curriculum or my teaching engagement, say, put the screens down and we're going to take this activity. We're going to have this conversation between small groups. We're going to do this to help me teach you about concept, whatever it is, right? And I think that aspect of teaching, like, I don't know a way to counterbalance it. Like, I feel like at this point it's like either the screens are out or the screens are off, right? Or like meaning they're out and on and kids are looking at them. And that the most difficult thing I see there, and I'm in my kids' school volunteering and I see it and I hear the teachers walking around as I'm talking to a couple students about something, and they're like, hey, you're getting distracted. You're going, like, you're not supposed to be on that program. You're supposed to be doing the questions over here, right? It is very difficult, and I hope from a technology perspective, schools will get some assistance and help narrowing that. I think our Chromebooks and the tablets and the things that we use need to be have much more strict kind of, if your teacher is assigning you something, I hope we can get to a point where they can click a button and your tablet gets taken over. And that is the only thing your tablet is useful for at that point, right? Because I don't know a way to solve for it, right? Like I've walked with a teacher. It was actually a principal of a school here in Springdale, and there was a classroom with glass walls, and we saw all the kids in the back row playing a game. And then the teacher walked back slowly, and then when the teacher was about 3 feet from the back row, all the kids closed or minimized that screen and brought up the thing they were doing. And so that is so tough for any kid to say no to. I remember with my graphing calculator playing Snake and like playing games, and I thought I was the coolest kid because in math class I'm playing games on my graphing calculator, right? Like that is, I think we are asking too much of our students. Long-winded answer, but I have some strong thoughts on tech in school, and it's a tough one because it's such an effective tool. So I feel for and empathize with teachers and educators who I think are doing a tremendous job in probably one of the most difficult modern scenarios to teach in today.
I think so much of our conversation, it genuinely is how to help people have a healthy relationship, but it feels like we're also saying, no, don't do this, right? So when you're talking with youth, what really resonates with them to help them understand what it is you're trying to communicate?
So with youth, one of the most effective things that I feel like I see the light bulb come on, and they tell me after we've done surveys, we've gotten feedback on it, is talking about that, just the habit, this kind of spectrum of good habits and bad habits, and recognizing that they don't have to be addicted to have a problem, right? They don't have to be addicted to say, you know what, I want to do something about this. And really trying to get them to understand that part of life is learning how to take a bad habit around technology and turn it into a good one. And the mindset of I need to change is the first step any of us take towards any type of change, right? And I feel like so much of us are in that ambivalent state, on the fence, especially with young people. They're like, they're not even on the fence. Like they're totally in the camp of, no, it's just good. Give me more screen time. Get off my back, parents, right? There's some of them. But I see more and more of them at least getting on the fence. I see more and more students at least saying, something's not right here. We got to do something. And I see students self-organizing, creating groups, like figuring out like, hey, like let's get off social media, or let's all take a break together, right? So when students are self-organizing around something, you know, they like when a teenager can recognize this is a problem, and not in a small amount, right? So I think trying to help students get to the point, and I think we're still in an awareness phase. I think we're still in an awareness phase of helping kids understand this is dangerous. Your bad habits can become something worse. And I've seen it in your peers, and just giving them permission to get off. Right at this point, I talk to so many students, Mary, and they're like, I don't even want to be on it. The only reason I play video games is all my friends do. The only reason I'm on social media is because I wouldn't be on social media but I can't. All of my friends are on there. Like that's a smaller subsegment, but there are kids, and I try to give those kids permission to like, you can reach out and just connect and just be friends. And it's not going to be easy. You're going to feel left out at times, but like you can do it. And once you leave the bubble of high school, like that skill is going to be so valuable to just be able to reach out and make an interpersonal connection. And a lot of kids in college don't know how to do it. They don't know. So
well, let's try to empower them a little bit more. And maybe even some parents that are listening today and are going, oh man, I might have an issue myself, right? What are some quick tips you might be able to give them for managing digital use that could help them start forming those healthy habits that might help them just have a more fruitful life outside of digital media?
Absolutely. I am a firm believer at this point in America, any smartphone user probably has one app that they need to delete. Meaning, and the only case where that's not the case is usually when they've already deleted the app and they've deleted it 17 times and they keep reinstalling it, right? So I would say the easiest thing is just recognize, like, is this a time waster? Is this just like, I like it. It gives me some sort of news or entertainment or funny, or it's just a quick little distraction, but it has gotten out of control and I just want to do it, and I want to do it way too often. So I would just say, like, if you've tried to limit that thing and you have not been able to limit that thing, delete it. Delete the app and tell other people that you are. And if you can't do it, if you are reinstalling and you're like, what is wrong with me? I have no self-control. Ask for help. Like, connect with more than one person. Like, talk to somebody about that, because that you are recognizing and openly admitting that this is annoying. It's a problem for you and you can't do it. You don't know. And just keep seeking how to limit and control that impulse and that behavior. So I think just that's a simple solution. And the other just quick tip is I still go through this every once in a while, and I go through and pull up my notifications, like what notifications for what apps are turned on. And I do a notification inventory, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I have way too many notifications, way too many things, bing, bing. And I'm like, that comes on 15 times a day and it's annoying to me every time. And why haven't I shut it off yet? Like, and so I just go through and I shut stuff off. Like, we're in a lot more control than we think sometimes in terms of what access all the apps and the internet, like how much access they have to us. And we can limit that access. And that's a very simple, healthy way that we can just take a step towards better self-control, is limiting the access that our phone has to us.
And I know I'm guilty of this. There's a particular app that I will go to and just, kill time, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing anything.
Sure.
I'll stop and open it up, and I'm just thinking maybe I need to delete that app. But so much of that is just scrolling.
Yeah.
And part of me thinking I'm getting connection or I'm getting something from that, but I'm not getting any kind of validation or interactions outside of the phone or the digital universe. So if you're going to encourage people to sort of get out of that scrolling loop and find validation and relationships outside of their phone, what might you communicate to them?
So I've gone through this activity with a 68-year-old man because he said to me, I have to use Facebook. Like, he's getting that validation. He's and he's like, but I hate that I just sit there scrolling the videos. I like most of what I do on there, I actually don't like. Part of me likes, but it's not good. And I end up wasting an hour. I end up wasting more than an hour. And so I said, okay, make a list of what you like from Facebook. What do you get that is good? And then we're going to do a simple brainstorm of how else can you get those benefits? Like, how else can you get the benefits of what you're scrolling or what you're doing? And typically it's, well, I'll text a friend. I'll call a friend. I'll actually connect with that person. The photo that they might have posted online, maybe they'll send directly to me in a text. I am a strong pusher and believer towards old school, not dial, but right, like press the button that says call them. And he did that. And he said, like, thank you. Like, and I gave him instructions on how, like, Facebook does not make it easy to delete Facebook at this point. And he was like, I can't even do it. I'm going to lose all my pictures. I'm like, you can download all your pictures. You can download every post you ever made. You can keep it in a file that if Facebook ever says, come back with open arms, you can upload that and you can have your profile back just the way it was. Like, you can do it. And now he does a monthly phone call with some of his old friends from high school. He's reconnecting with people. Like, it's been a very positive thing in his life where he replaced the things he was getting from the app with things that didn't come with huge side effects.
They were actually fulfilling
yes,
experiences as opposed to being a voyeur. He had fulfilling experiences he can be part of.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. Are there any other resources you can share with teachers, families, young people that you'd encourage them to check out to maybe learn a little bit more or perhaps get even more help with what they're dealing with?
Absolutely. So we just released, we haven't even really fully announced it, we just released a full practical parenting course. It's essentially a little over 2.5 hours, but it is basically a video form of what we would do in these live parent workshops that we've been doing all around Northwest Arkansas. So you can go on our site at selfctrl.com. If you sign up for our email list, we're going to be emailing out a free beta code so you can get it for free. But we ask for like $5. So basically keep the lights on for our 501(c) nonprofit. Like if you email me, I'll give you a code and we'll get it for free. But my point is, like, don't let that be a barrier to getting access to it. We just are trying to continue to be able to bring this to more parents and help more students with this. But that would be a tangible resource where essentially pretty much everything we share around parents and advice for what's reasonable limits at different ages for my younger kids, and how to handle the cell phone conversations and just how to navigate that. So we go through that with parents. So that would be probably the most straightforward one that I'd recommend to parents, is check us out at Selfctrl, and then CTRL, like the control button on a keyboard.com.
Also, schools can also have you come out and do presentations, assemblies, and talk to them as well, right?
Yes. So we've been doing those. I have been turning some of those down. We've had a little more demand or interest than we can. We're just scheduling them further out. So that 100%, we would love to be able to be a resource for schools. We're also getting to train school counselors. So we just trained all the school counselors and social workers for Rogers School District. We're going to train Bentonville in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be training Springdale in the spring. So we'll be training all the school counselors. So your counselor will at least be equipped and be more informed on this topic to be able to help the students of Springdale.
Thank you. It sounds like you're taking next natural steps with everything. So I really appreciate your doing that. And I really appreciate your being here today. Is there anything that I didn't think was valuable part of the conversation that you really think you want to share today and mention?
I would just encourage everybody listening, take a deep breath. Expect this to be hard. Expect the balance of parenting and technology to be difficult. Parenting children through middle school and high school, it was going to be hard anyway, right? But even elementary school parents are having a difficult time with this. But I just want to encourage every parent on here, you are the best equipped person on the planet to help teach your children these skills. And for every educator, it might seem harder than it's ever been, but I just want to encourage you, don't get tired. Don't grow weary of doing the good that you are doing. You are making a difference. And I want to just say thank you for what you're doing and to just keep at it.
Thank you, Ian.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Springdale Today. I'm your host, Mary Jordan. You can catch this and previous episodes of Springdale Today on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Thank you for joining us for this conversation, and we look forward to joining you and chatting with you next time on Springdale Today.
Springdale Today is a production of Springdale Public Schools Communication Office.
The podcast is hosted by Mary Jordan and is produced and edited by Micah DeLacy.
Be sure to subscribe to Springdale Today for free on your favorite podcast platform.
And don't forget to follow Springdale Today on social media for episode updates and behind-the-scenes conversations.
Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us in the future
as we continue to learn about the amazing stories happening in Springdale today.